A risk assessment demo built using Decision Manager 7. Before I get into the demo, I would like to quickly recap on why we want to use a business rules management system to build rules applications. I'm sure you all know this. That's why I'm not going to go into details. I'm just going to name them. First, separation of decision logic from application code. 2. Definition of decision logic in business terminology and language. And 3. Performance and scalability. One major pain point people have is that building a rule-based application requires heavy developer involvement in translating business analysts' intention and business logic into business rules. Sometimes some details got lost in the translation, and multiple iterations have to be carried out to get the translation right, potentially increasing the cost, time to market, and decreasing the quality as a result. The Red Hat Decision Manager, in addition to providing all these values I just listed, it also comes out of the box with a comprehensive set of integrated tools in a low-code workbench called Decision Central, which can help your business people, yes, I mean business people like business analysts, to quickly create rule-based applications and deploy them to run in a decision server by simply clicking on a button. In this demo, I'm going to show you a rule-based application build using Decision Central. First of all, let me tell you about the use case. The use case is credit card application assessment. When someone submits a credit card application, you need to assess the applicant in a number of areas. First, demographic assessment. You need to assess his age, whether he is a bank customer, etc. 2. Credit card demographic assessment. You need to assess his annual income, outstanding mortgage borrowing amount, saving and investment balance amount, etc. And 3. Credit score assessment. You need to assess whether in the past 12 months have any default payment, whether he has or she has declared bankruptcy, and how many years he or she has been with the bank. But different conditions, different sets of conditions give different sets of credit scores. In order to approve an application, the applicant must pass the first two tests, that is the demographic assessment and the credit card demographic assessment, and obtain a credit score of 500 or higher. Now, let's look at the simplistic approach. The easiest way to implement this particular use case is to evaluate or to carry out these assessments in series, that is, one at a time. It is the simplest approach, but it may not be the most efficient. For example, you can do a bit better by using this approach. Since we already know that an applicant must pass both of these demographic assessments, so if the applicant failed the first one here, there's no need to proceed any further. What if I told you that you, the business analyst, can build this application using Decision Manager's local workbench yourself? In this demo, I'm going to show you what such an application built using Decision Central looks like. Let me tell you about the 5 things I want to show you. Oh, by the way, the intended audience of this demo is business people. This means that you do not have to have deep development skills to understand this. The 5 topics are: 1. Data model and business rules. As you all know, for a rules engine to work, you need to provide the data so that it can match the data to your business rules and perform the inference. In this demo, I'm going to show you how this is done using Decision Central. 2. Rule flow. That is, how do we perform this optimized implementation? 3. Test scenarios. Once you've written a set of rules, you want to test them before you actually deploy them, right? You can use the graphical interface to actually do all this testing. And 4. Deployment and interaction. I'm going to show you how to do a one-click deployment to a decision server and then how you can interact with your deployed application. 5. I'm grouping all this technical information into this last section. Now let us look at the first topic, data model and business rules. This is the Decision Central workbench. Since this is not a product feature demo, I'm not going to show you how to log in, how to navigate the user interface, etc. I just want to show you the parts that are of interest to you regarding this risk assessment demo. If you want to see how to navigate the user interface, I put the link of a video on that topic in the description of the video. You can go take a look later. When you see this business process and then you already have BPM deployed in your organization, you say, oh no, I don't want to install another business process management system. So don't worry about that. This is not a real business process management system. This is all for you to create this particular rule flow diagram here to control the execution of business rules and make decisions on the way. So, but that is the next topic. This particular session, I'm going to talk about data model and also business rules. As I said earlier, the first thing you want to do is create your data model because the rules engine requires data in order to match your business rules and then do the inference. So how are you going to do the data modeling? So you can actually invoke the data modeler. So I've already created the data model. You can see in here, all I'm doing is adding the identifier, also what sort of type it is, whether it's integer, boolean, string, etc. By the way, it can be a really complex object, but in here I'm just showing you all the necessary variables or attributes required for this risk assessment, including account balance, age, annual income, etc. All these parameters I talk about in the introduction part of this series of videos. Now, once we define the data model, we have to define business rules to do that. And there are many ways of defining business rules. Today's, I'm going to talk about like DRL, which is the native syntax of the rules business rules engine. And also the guided decision table. Obviously, there are more ways for you to design your business rules. For example, you can use an Excel spreadsheet. You can use like a domain-specific language that is allowing you to create business rules using an English-like type of a syntax. But today, I'm going to concentrate on DRL and decision tables. Let's have a look at what a decision table may look like. So let's look at something really simple, like a demographic assessment. In here, you can see the decision table. This part is condition part in light blue color. And this part is actually the action part. So in here, you can see that I've actually created some conditions here. What this table is saying is that when the applicant's age is younger than 18, so it doesn't matter whether he's an existing customer or not, existing bank customer or not, I'm going to call him unsuitable because he's underage. And for any applicant who is above the age of 18 or equal to the age of 18, so depending on whether he's an existing bank customer, right? If he is, then I would say he's suitable. Otherwise, he's not. And also, you can see that there are additional action columns here. For example, this one is generating a rejection object, so that is to be used in the workflow diagram in the next topic. And also, there's another column here asking it to actually display this particular the name of this particular rule when it's fired in the console. So later on, you can actually track what rules has been fired, leading to a decision. Now, let's look at something more complex. Credit score. You can see that in here there is something called R, which is actually specifying the HIT policy. The HIT policy governs whether when you're looking at a particular row in the decision table, whether whenever there's a match condition, you end there, right? So there's one option. The other option is what I had in here, row by row. Or so basically what happens is it will go through the whole table here. Like for example, if you try to match every one of these conditions, and when a set of conditions has been met, what it will do is assign a particular credit score to that particular condition set. And also, if you look at the another action column here is actually totaling or adding up all these credit scores. So once you have gone through the whole table, you will have accumulated the credit score for this particular applicant. Let's look at some of these conditions that the business rules are trying to match. In here, you probably can see the whole title here. Well, the number of default payments in the last 12 months for the applicant. Here is whether the applicant has declared bankruptcy. And the third one is how long the applicant has been with the bank. So let's take, for example, this particular entry here is saying that, well, this person have one default payment in the last 12 months. So I'm going to assign a credit score of 250 to him. For example, if in this particular entry, the applicant has defaulted more than 4 payments, then we're only going to assign a 50 to his credit score, and so on and so forth. This is how the credit scores are totaled, by going through every row of this particular table. In a later section, I will tell you about how to create some of these actions later. So in this particular demo, all I'm going to show you is what the end product looks like. Right? So in here, we have seen a number of decision tables. Let me show you some DRL, or the native Drew syntax business rules. You'll see that for these rules, it's look like a programming language. Indeed, it's a programming language. It's the rules, Drew's programming language. So you say that, oh, it's difficult for me. I don't actually know this particular syntax or this programming language. So why are you showing me that? I'm just showing you that, well, there are different ways of doing it. For example, if you give the problem to a developer, he'll probably want to use this particular syntax because it's this is what he's used to. But you don't have to do that. For example, if you're a business analyst, you don't want to learn the Drew's programming language, you can implement exactly the same thing by using decision table. As a matter of fact, I've actually created this exactly the same business rules. This is for doing the final assessment. That is looking at the result of the 2 demographic assessments and looking at the final total credit score to decide whether an applicant is application will be approved or rejected. So I've actually implemented exactly the same thing using the final assessment in here. So what it's saying is, if the first demographic assessment is unsuitable, then I will not approve it, and so on and so forth. The only time I'll approve it is that it passes the first assessment, it passes the second assessment, and his credit score is greater or equal to 500. Then you can see that I actually approve it. Now you have seen Decision Central and how it can help you create data models and business rules without writing code. Let's get on to the next topic, which is rule flow. You can see in here, for each type of assessment that I talk about in the use case, for example, demographic assessment, credit card demographic assessment, credit score, and final assessment. I've actually have defined a decision table for each one of those. And that's how I'm going to implement these business rules. How we create the rule flow diagrams to determine when to execute which set of rules and to make some decisions. You can see in here that this is the demographic assessment. When it comes to this particular box, it will activate that set of rules related to demographic assessment. And once you've done the assessment, it will know whether this particular applicant is suitable for the application or not. If it's unsuitable, then it will go directly to the last box, which is the make decision, which is associated with the final assessment. So because this person has already failed the first one, there's no point carrying on with the next two assessments. It will be, his application will be rejected right away. If this applicant happens to succeed in the first one, it will move on to the next one, and then we'll check again whether he passed or failed that particular credit card demographic assessment assessments. If it succeeded, then we move on to the next one, which is calculating his credit score. If it fails, then again we terminate early, and this is how we're going to achieve it using this particular rule flow diagram. Now you have seen the rule flow editor and how you can control which set of business rules get executed when by using rule flow group or agenda group. Now let us get into the third topic, which is test scenarios. Once you created your business rules, the first thing you want to do is to test them. Right? You can use the graphical user interface to actually create test scenarios or unit tests for your business rules. You can see that I've actually created quite a few business rules to test out my different decision tables. Let's look at some of them here. First of all, something simple, demographic assessment. What I have here, you can see that I'm saying that, well, in this test, the demographic assessment agenda group or rule flow group will be used. And what I'm here is injecting an applicant object into the rules-based working memory. That is the data I'm going to provide to the rule engine so that it can start doing its inference by matching the business rules. So the object I injected into working memory have this particular attribute set in the applicant data model. I set the age to 15, and he is an existing customer. Right, and what I'm expecting for this particular test is that this particular rule will be fired. That is the democratic assessment row 1. If you look back at the row 1, what it is, let's have a look at row 1. So this is trying to match this particular rule. The applicant's age is younger than 18, and he's an existing customer. He is not unsuitable because he's underage. That is what that particular test means. And also, I'm expecting that particular applicant object that I've injected into the working memory will have its democratic assessment field set to unsuitable. Right? This is what I'm trying to do. I'm specifying which set of rules to be used. I'm providing it with the applicant's data, and then I specify which rule will be fired, and also what is the outcome of the inference. So let us run it by using the run scenario button here. Just click on this. You can see this is green and this is green. That means the test has succeeded. Now let's look at the more complex test. Let's look at the credit score. I'm injecting the applicant with this particular field set, the bankruptcy field set to true, and I'm expecting this particular role to be fired. And also I got the total score of 0. Let us look at the credit score decision table. In here it says that whenever the applicant is actually declared bankruptcy, I don't care about the other conditions. What I'm going to do, I'm going to assign a credit score of 0 to this particular applicant, and that is what this particular rule is testing. So it's saying that the bankruptcy fact has been set to true, and I expect that first row is the rule in the first row to be fired, and also I expect the credit score to be 0. Let's run it. Again, they are both green. So what if I change it? If I change it to, I expect the credit score to be 100, let's run it again. Now you can see that it has failed. And this is how you can actually test your business rules without actually deploying it into a decision server. All you need to do is to use your graphical interface to create test scenarios or unit tests to test out your application. And also notice that there is another button in here called Run All Scenarios. That means if I click on this one, it will run all of these scenarios that I have. So it'll be good to do a regression testing once you change a particular rule to see whether you're going to impact other rule set as well. So you can always run these all scenarios. Now that you have used the test scenarios to create your unit tests, we can move on to the next topic, which is deployment and interaction. There are two ways of deploying your business rules. One way is to embed your business rules as a jar file in your application. The other way is to deploy your business rules directly into a decision server. That means you can have multiple applications interacting with the decision server all at once. Now, what I'm going to show you is how to do the second way, that is deploy your business rule into a decision server. Let's get back to your project. You will see that there is a build button and there's a deploy button. If you just want to deploy, you can just click on the deploy. What it will do is it will first of all build your project and then deploy it into the decision server. Let's just click on this deploy for now. It's working. Now it's trying to build your application. Once it gets built, it will deploy it into the decision server. Now it's finished deploying. Now we can look at the deployment here by clicking on the menu and then clicking on Deploy Execution Servers. You can see the name of the deploy server, and this one is the business rules we just deployed. It's called risk assessment underscore 1.0.0. So you have to remember this particular name because, well, when interacting with the business rules deployed into this decision server, you will need this name. Now, how are we going to interact with the decision server? Actually, the business rules that have been deployed in your decision server. Business Central actually come with something called the Swagger Key Server APIs. So this is out of the box. If you scroll down to this section, you will see that there is one API call called Rules Evaluation, BRM. So what you do is click on it. Click on the Try It Out button. Since I'm going to interact with it using JSON, I'm going to change the input to JSON, and I'm going to change the output to JSON. Of course, you can use XML as well, but I just prefer JSON. So this is where you actually need that ID. I ask you to remember. So let me just type it in. Risk underscore 1.0.0. This is how it identifies that particular application running on the server. And then I'm to type in the JSON file. So in here, what I'm saying is I'm going to use this particular state session, and I'm going to provide the information here, like this applicant's age is 2, he's an existing customer, so on and so forth. I'm going to kick off that RUFO, and then I'm going to display the results. You see that in here, using the data insert command, I'm actually like injecting the data into the rules engine, and then ask the engine to start executing the RUFO, and then I'm going to look at the result here. So let us execute that. So you can see that it asked me for my credentials. I have to type it in. You can see that the application has been rejected, and the explanation is application rejected because demographic assessment says unsuitable. If you remember the decision table, anybody younger than 18 years old is not going to be approved. If you look at the console, you can see the interaction here. So first of all is performing the demographic assessment. Right, the rule has been fired. Row 1 is saying that is unsuitable, and then you can see the execution here and the object value of the object here. Let's do another test. Instead of 2 years old, let's make this applicant 20 years old. You can see that this particular application has been approved, and the reason being that the application has been approved because the credit score is about or equal to 500, and the applicant passed all demographic assessments. Right, this is how you're going to interact with the decision server by changing the data, the value of the data in the JSON. Now you've seen how easy it is to deploy your application into the decision server and how to interact with it using the Swagger API page. Let us get into the last topic, which is technical know-hows. Remember when we create our decision tables, we have a column called agenda group. You can use a RUFO group as well, so they are the same thing. So you have the specific value for this. It's called demographic assessment. And it's different for scorecard. You have the name of credit score. And how are you going to use this gender group or RUFO group names? So the simple answer is when you're using the RUFO diagram. So if you look at the RUFO diagram here, if I click on one of these boxes and look at the details here or the properties here. First of all, in here, this is the name that I give it, the make demographic assessment. If you look at the implementation, execution, you see that in here, I got a choice of different RUFO group or agenda group that has been created. In here, all I simply doing is select the demographic assessment, and when it reaches this particular task or this box, what it will do is activate that particular set of rules to do the assessment. So if we look at the second box here, make credit card demographic assessment. The name is here. You can always change it. And you will see that again, I've selected a different RUFO group. So how do I determine when actually assessment has failed or succeeded? So if you look at this particular arrow here, if I click on it, you see it's suitable, and the implementation is specifying I'm using Druze. So what I'm doing is when there is no rejection object, is considered suitable. So remember, in your decision table, in make demographic assessment, that is a particular column in which is saying insert rejection object or something, right? So you have a check marks there. So under this particular rules, you inject a rejection object in there. So that object is going to be used in here, right, to determine the different paths that the execution should take. So for those of you who are familiar with BPMS or PAM, Process Automation Manager, which is for the process automation, so it has a very similar user interface. You remember that well, there are lots of other particulars or fields that you have to fill in before everything will work. But when you're using the RUFO, so all you need to do is very simply just provide it with the name and also select the RUFO group, and that's it. That's all you need. Now we have seen some of the techniques that you can use in building your rules applications. Just want to let you know that the source code is available in GitHub. I put a link in the description of the video. You are welcome to experiment with the Red Hat Decision Manager and the source code. The JSON files used in the demo can also be found in the link in the description as well. So thank you for watching. Until the next time.